What's up, everybody? My name is Josh LaFleur from Late Start Piano. Today, we're going to be talking about ending on a high note to finish up your practice sessions for the piano. Now, where this comes from is when I was in school, high school, and I was on the basketball team. When we were done practicing, whether it was for a team practice, whether it was just us playing pickup, whether it was me by myself just shooting around on a park somewhere, we always had this saying, my teammates and I, about ending on a make, right? So whenever you left the court, you didn't want to leave on a miss because that was bad. It was bad juju. It was a bad omen. What you wanted to do and what you had to do was end on a make. So it didn't matter if it was, you're standing right underneath the hoop, you shoot it and it goes in. If you make a three-pointer, if it's a swish, if it's not a swish, it doesn't matter. Only thing that mattered is that you ended on a make. And we weren't allowed to leave, just as a personal standard, a personal rule, we were not allowed to leave the courts until we had that make come in, and then we could leave. And it got me thinking because we can also use this same kind of mental approach to playing the piano as well. So, for example, a lot of times people can get frustrated with playing the piano. They don't really feel like practicing. They don't want to practice. They don't want to go through the scales and the technique work, and they don't want to work on the same one or two measures that they've been trying to play for a week or two now, right? And that kind of stuff can, again, make you feel like you don't want to practice, like you don't have time to practice, that you don't want to actually do it. But when you end on a make, right, or you end on a good note, a high note, as in the piano, it leaves you with that good mentality, that good place mentally to be able to come back the next day. Okay, so that's the whole point of this. The point of ending on a make, ending on a good note, a high note, is that you feel refreshed coming back to the piano. You don't mind going back to practicing because the last memory you had was something good, it was something positive, it was something you wanted to do. And you are more motivated to get up and practice in the next practice session. Okay. So again, this is the positive ending on a good note. Okay. So what does this actually look like in reality? What is ending on a good note, ending on a make? What does that look like? Well, when you're practicing the piano, usually people break it up into sessions, right? So maybe in the very beginning, you work on your technique. In the middle, for the majority of it, you work on the current piece that you're learning. And then at the end of it, maybe you do some sight reading, maybe you do some kind of improv, something like that, whatever it is to kind of end your practice session. And then you're done for the day. That's usually how people do it. They break it up into three sections: the technique, the piece that they're working on, and then something to a little bit different maybe every time they end. So that could be a little bit of sight reading, it could be improv, it could be trying to play by ear, whatever it is, the ending is usually a little bit different. And what I'm here today to tell you is the change that you can make is that last piece of your practice session ended on something you really enjoy doing. And that can look like a lot of different things. You can take the last 10 minutes, the last 5 minutes. If you love to play by ear, you can work on that. If you just want to play a song that you've learned 3 months ago and you're really good at it, but you love the song, you can play that. If you want to play some kind of Christmas song that you love because it's Christmas time now and you don't have to really think about it, you just do it from memory, then that's great. You can play that. The point is that you want to end on a good note, you want to end on a high note so that you are more motivated and you are more willing to come back the next day and work on all the not so fun stuff. Okay. So usually what people do, what I would recommend, is in the beginning you do some kind of technique because usually that's where people don't like the most, right? Usually they don't like doing the scales, they don't like doing the arpeggios, they don't like doing any kind of sight reading stuff because it's tough. It's tough to work on those things and it can get boring and it can get tedious. So I would suggest that you do it in the beginning because it still needs to be done. Whether you think it's tedious or boring or monotonous and you just hate doing scales, it needs to be done if you want to improve at the piano. So I would suggest to do that very first thing when you sit down. Do your technique, again, if it's octave, scales, arpeggios, whatever it is that you're working on for technique, hand exercises, things like that, do that at the very beginning of your practice session. Get that done, get that out the way. Then you can move on right into playing your next piece that you're working on, whether it's from some kind of method book, whether it's some kind of sheet music that you download online, whatever it is. Use the majority of your practice session now after the technique to dive into that song work and then improve at the main aspect, right? The actual song playing on the piano. Once that's done, so you did your technique, you got that done, you worked on the piece or two pieces that you're working on. Now the last 5 or 10 minutes, you want to do something that you really enjoy. So again, it could be playing music that you love, that you already know. It could be some ear training. It could be improvising. It could be pulling up a random song you've never played before just to see if you can sight read it. If you like to do that, then that's fine. But the last 5 to 10 minutes should be something really fun that you enjoy doing so that you trick yourself mentally, which is the whole point of this, right? You want to trick yourself mentally so that the next day you have that positive imprint, that positive impact. Your last memory of you practicing was doing something that you really love, something that you really enjoy. So that's going to motivate you to get back to practicing the next day. Even though you're going to start off with that tedious stuff, it's still going to motivate you to get back to practicing. And it's going to help you stay consistent and stay, again, motivated to actually practice. Because nobody enjoys it really, unless you're some kind of weirdo. Nobody enjoys practicing scales or arpeggios for hours and hours on end, right? It's not the fun, it's boring. But again, it still needs to be done. So that's why we want to end on a good note and then start the practice session with the thing that you don't like the most. Get that out the way, get that completed. And another good thing about this is not only does it leave a good imprint on your mind, right? But it also makes practicing fun. And that can be overlooked a lot of times because people get really focused on the technique or the piece that they're working on. And sometimes people bash their head so hard against the wall to get this certain hand passage down or to get this certain piece down perfectly that they start to get really frustrated with themselves and they start to hate practicing the piano, and it becomes this evil thing that they never want to touch and they're just done, right? They give up. They say, this isn't fun. I don't enjoy my time spent on the piano. I'm done, and they quit. And then they never play again, and then they regret their decision 10 years later, 20 years later. And now they just lost all that time. So to avoid that feeling as well, just of frustration and that feeling of bashing your head up against the wall, trying to get something down perfectly, take the last 5 minutes. It's okay. Take the last 5 minutes, do something really fun, do something refreshing. It'll clear your mind, right? So to clear your mind, you'll end on that positive note. And then especially if you practice at night, it's a calming feeling as well, right? You don't want to end the night practice session practicing something really mundane that you hate, because now you're going to bed with all these negative emotions. If you're practicing at night, this is especially for you. You definitely want to end on a good note, something that you enjoy doing, so that when you go to bed, you are feeling happy, you feel proud and just happy with yourself that you ended on that good note. And as far as how you ended the practice session, you feel good. And at the same time, if you're practicing at night, your mind goes to sleep, and now you're working on those movements while you're sleeping at the same time. So it's another good point as well. So again, really just end on that good note. Take the 5 minutes, take the 10 minutes. You're not doing anything wrong. Just play something you love. Do whatever you want. Make it fun. Make it your own. You don't have to do the same thing every time. You can change it, whatever you want to do. But as long as you have those two core pieces in, the technique and then the current piece that you're working on, the last piece can be something totally fun and something that you really enjoy. So again, hope that helps. My name is Josh LaFleur from Late Start Piano, and make sure you end on a good note.